Just don't touch the glowy bits. Seriously. Kale swatted futilely at a cluster of luminous purple fronds dangling near his face. They pulsed softly, emitting a faint, ozone-like scent that tickled his nose. He was crammed into the back of what looked suspiciously like a stolen diplomatic skimmer, shoulder to shoulder with the reason his morning had gone from selling overpriced space cabbages to evading heavily armed guards through the station's waste recycling conduits. Said reason was currently humming, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated through the metal plating beneath him and disconcertingly right into his teeth. Her skin, a shifting tapestry of iridescent blues and greens, shimmered even in the dim emergency lighting. A thin, flexible tendril, coiling like metallic ivy from her temple, brushed against his cheek. He flinched. "Hey, glowy bits rule." She tilted her head, her large, obsidian eyes fixing on him with unnerving intensity. The tendril retracted slightly, then deliberately tapped his nose. "You are tense, Kale human farmer." Her voice was a melodious chime overlaid with that strange resonance. How she knew his name, or the ridiculously simplified moniker the station registry assigned his old agritech license, was just another item on the growing list of things he didn't understand. Is this not excitement? A chase? Potential dismemberment, very stimulating. Stimulating isn't the word I'd use, Kale muttered, trying to shift away, but there was nowhere to go. Her hip pressed against his, warm and solid beneath the strange, supple fabric she wore. The faint ozone scent intensified, mixed with something else, floral, metallic, both. Impulsive, chaotic, and likely to end with me explaining to station security why I'm aiding and abetting, whatever you are. He waved a hand vaguely at her shifting skin, the intricate patterns swirling like captured nebulae. "And stop humming. It's making my fillings buzz." She laughed, a sound like wind chimes caught in a solar flare. "My resonance field comforts, it aligns chaotic energies." The tendril snaked out again, tracing the line of his jaw. A jolt like static cling amplified 1,000 times shot down his spine. He jerked his head back. Or maybe it just annoys uptight humans. She grinned, revealing teeth that were sharp and pearlescent. "You fled with me, your choice. You crashed through my hydroponics display, grabbed my arm, and yelled, 'He is my consort, touch him and die.' In perfect high Thexian before dragging me into a garbage chute," Kale countered, scrubbing a hand over his face. "My choices felt limited, and for the record, consort means something specific where I come from. Usually involves less garbage." He could still smell the fermented nutrient paste clinging to his jacket. His prize-winning purple nebula cabbages were probably being composted by sanitation bots right now. He sighed. "Who are you, anyway? And who are those guys who apparently want to dismember us?" Her glow softened, the blues deepening, the greens swirling into complex spirals near her eyes. "I am Lyra of the Lumina." The name felt heavy, important. The tendril rested lightly on his pulse point as if testing his reaction. "They are inconvenient political rivals, bad taste in fashion." She dismissed them with a flick of her wrist, the gesture sending ripples of light across her skin. "They object to my presence, my claim." "Claim to what?" "The station's worst plumbing," Kale grumbled, though the warmth radiating from her, the sheer alien strangeness of her existence inches away, was doing strange things to his focus. That ozone scent was getting thicker, almost intoxicating. He felt a weird pull, a dizzying sense of disorientation that wasn't just from the skimmer's erratic movements. "My birthright," Lyra said softly, her gaze distant for a moment, fixed on the grimy bulkhead opposite them. The humming intensified, vibrating deep in his bones now. And perhaps, her eyes snapped back to his, sharp and assessing. The tendril tightened almost imperceptibly on his neck. "A new consort," her grin returned, predatory and playful. "You seem durable." Before Kale could process that, let alone formulate a suitably sarcastic retort, the skimmer lurched violently, throwing them both against the side panel. Red lights flashed on the console up front. An automated voice announced, "Proximity alert. Weapons lock detected." Lyra's playful expression vanished, replaced by fierce concentration. Her glow flared, casting stark shadows in the cramped space. "Hold on, Kale human farmer. Stimulation levels are about to increase. The skimmer plunged into a sickening dive, throwing Kale against Lyra. His hand landed squarely on her hip, fingers brushing against the warm, smooth skin just above the fabric of her garment. It felt like touching a live wire and velvet simultaneously. Her breath hitched, and the glow emanating from her skin pulsed erratically, shifting from blues and greens to flashes of violet and gold. "Apologies," he mumbled, trying to retract his hand, but the acceleration pinned him in place. Her eyes met his, wide and startled, the playful dominance momentarily replaced by something else, raw, surprised awareness. The resonance humming stopped abruptly, leaving a ringing silence filled only by the shriek of stressed metal and the increasingly insistent beeping of the proximity alarm. "Less apologizing, more bracing," Lyra suggested, her voice slightly breathless. She shifted subtly, not pulling away but adjusting her position so his hand settled more firmly against her. The heat intensified under his palm. The tendrils near her temples quivered, emitting faint sparks of light. Outside, the roar of pursuing engines grew louder. "They are persistent," she observed, her tone hardening. "Unpleasant." She grabbed a control yoke that unfolded from the wall, her grip tightening until the knuckles, or whatever equivalent anatomical structure she possessed, showed white beneath the iridescent skin. "My piloting is creative." "Creative like your definition of consort," Kale shot back, his heart hammering against his ribs from a combination of G-forces and proximity to whatever strange energy field she projected. He could feel the fine vibrations under his hand now, a rhythmic pulsing that seemed to echo his own heartbeat. It was unnerving, compelling. He forced himself to focus on the external threat. Any weapons on this glorified tin can? "Limited," Lyra admitted, banking sharply. Kale's head smacked against the bulkhead. "Mostly countermeasures, resonance dampers, photonic chaff." She glanced at him, a flicker of concern in her eyes. "Your species is fragile." "Compared to whatever bounces back from hitting metal walls, yeah, probably," Kale grunted, rubbing his head. "Look, can you just tell me what they want? Why are they chasing you specifically?" Understanding the stakes felt marginally more important than nursing his bruised skull. He needed context for the potential dismemberment. Lyra's expression closed off slightly. The glow on her skin stabilized, returning to the cooler blues and greens, though the intensity remained high. "I carry something they desire, something essential to my people." She maneuvered the skimmer through a narrow service tunnel, sparks showering from the wingtips. "And my existence challenges their authority." "Right, vague and ominous, got it," Kale sighed. "So this essential thing, is it like a space artifact, secret data, the keys to the royal liquor cabinet?" He was trying for levity, mostly to distract himself from the way her warmth seemed to seep into his hand, traveling up his arm. A small smile touched her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It is resonance, lineage, the right to lead." She flicked a switch and the skimmer shuddered as it deployed a cloud of shimmering particles behind them. Alarms blared from the pursuing ships, momentarily muffled. "They believe I am unworthy, unfit, too impulsive." She shot him a sideways glance, a spark of the earlier mischief returning. "Perhaps they have a point." She yanked the yoke hard, sending them spinning into another corridor. "But they will not have Luminara, not while I resonate." The certainty in her voice was absolute, fierce. And Kale, despite the chaos, despite the absurdity, found himself believing her. He also found his hand still firmly planted on her hip, and he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to move it. The strange energy humming started again, lower this time, almost soothing, weaving through the adrenaline and fear, creating a bizarre cocktail of sensations he couldn't begin to unravel. They burst out of the service tunnels into a vast, echoing cargo bay, the size of a small asteroid field hangar. Stacks of containers towered like metal cliffs, casting long, distorted shadows. Their pursuers, two sleek gunmetal gray interceptors, emerged moments later, engines whining aggressively. Laser fire stitched across the bay, narrowly missing the skimmer's tail. "Okay, creative piloting time is great," Kale yelled over the din, "but maybe add effective escape plan to the mix." Lyra didn't answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the cavernous space, her glow fluctuating rapidly. The tendrils around her temples vibrated, casting off tiny motes of light like static discharge. "There," she finally said, pointing towards a massive loading crane suspended high above. "The magnetic grapples, if we can disrupt their targeting lock." She swerved violently, dodging another volley of shots that vaporized a stack of crates nearby. "Kale Human Farmer, can you access the station's network?" "Cargo bay schematics, crane controls." "Access the— I was selling cabbages half an hour ago," Kale protested, fumbling for the battered datapad clipped to his belt. "My clearance level probably tops out at ordering nutrient paste refills." Still, he flipped it open, fingers flying across the cracked screen. His old agri-tech background involved a lot of jury-rigging recalcitrant farm equipment and bypassing irrigation system protocols. "Maybe." Okay, station network is heavily encrypted, but the cargo logistics system, it's usually full of holes, sloppy contractors." His fingers blurred, bypassing firewalls with practiced ease honed by years of finding unofficial ways to optimize crop yields and reroute power to his hidden distillery back on the colony. "Got it. Crane controls online. What do you want me to do?" "Target their lead ship," Lyra commanded, weaving the skimmer between towering stacks of unidentified cargo. "Engage the primary grapple. Full power surge." Her voice was tight, focused. The resonance humming intensified again, a physical pressure against Kale's sternum. "Engage grapple surge," Kale muttered, finding the command sequence. This felt less like farming and more like hot-wiring a harvester to run over tax collectors. He stabbed the activation icon. High above, the massive crane whirred to life. A heavy magnetic grapple dropped like a predator, swinging towards the nearest interceptor. Alarms shrieked from the targeted ship as its shields flared, struggling against the powerful magnetic pull. It slowed, fighting the invisible tether. "Yes," Lyra banked hard again, looping around a container stack. "Now the other one, secondary grapple." "On it." Kale targeted the second interceptor just as it fired, the blast scoring the skimmer's flank. The jolt threw him forward, his face brushing against the side of Lyra's neck. Her skin was incredibly smooth, radiating heat and that strange ozone floral scent. For a split second his senses were overwhelmed. The smell, the warmth, the low thrumming resonance that seemed to bypass his ears and sink directly into his bones. He pulled back sharply, flustered, his fingers fumbling on the datapad. Secondary grapple engaged. The second grapple slammed onto the other interceptor. Both ships were now struggling against the magnetic pull, their movements becoming sluggish, erratic. "It won't hold them long," Kale warned, watching the energy readouts plummet on the crane's system. "Long enough," Lyra breathed. Her glow flared brilliantly, shifting to pure incandescent gold. The resonance peaked, a wave of palpable energy washing through the cockpit. "Hold tight." She slammed her hand onto a large, unmarked crystal set into the dashboard. The skimmer didn't accelerate, it shifted. The cargo bay seemed to distort around them, colors smearing, sounds elongating into strange echoes. Kale felt a disconcerting lurch, not of movement but of presence. Like stepping sideways out of reality, the pursuing ships, the crane, the entire cargo bay vanished. They were suddenly adrift in a swirling vortex of pearlescent light, the skimmer silent and still within the chaos. Kale stared, bewildered. What was that? Lyra slumped back in her seat, the golden glow dimming rapidly, replaced by the softer blues and greens, now tinged with pale gray. She looked exhausted. The tendrils drooped slightly. "A short jump through folded space. My personal transport has limitations." She took a deep, shuddering breath. "We are somewhere else, temporarily safe." She turned to look at him, her dark eyes searching his face. "You did well, Kale Human Farmer. Very adaptable." A ghost of her playful smile returned. "Perhaps durability is not your only asset." Before he could respond, her eyes fluttered closed, and she leaned sideways, her head coming to rest gently against his shoulder. The soft thrumming resonance returned, slow and even now, like a contented sigh. And Kale, surrounded by impossible light, with an alien princess asleep on his shoulder, could only stare into the swirling void, wondering what fresh hell awaited them when they landed. The swirling vortex resolved slowly, like watercolor bleeding into focus. Kale blinked, disoriented, as solid reality reasserted itself. They weren't in the skimmer anymore. They were standing somehow in a small, circular chamber carved from smooth, obsidian-like rock. Soft luminescence emanated not from any visible source, but from intricate patterns etched into the walls, patterns that mirrored the shifting designs on Lyra's skin. The air was warm, humid, carrying the scent of unfamiliar blossoms and damp earth, a stark contrast to the recycled air and metallic tang of the station. Lyra stirred beside him, pushing away gently, though her fingers lingered on his arm for a moment longer than necessary. Her glow was strengthening, the pale gray fading, replaced by vibrant emerald and sapphire hues. "Where are we?" Kale asked, his voice hushed in the quiet space. It felt strangely intimate, sacred almost. "Sanctuary," Lyra replied, her gaze sweeping the chamber. "A transfer point, hidden, ancient." She ran a hand over the glowing glyphs on the wall and they brightened in response, the light rippling outwards. "My ancestors used these pathways before the stars were fully charted." She turned back to him, her expression serious. "They bought us time, Kale, but not much. Those ships, they were Imperial Guard, my cousin's personal fleet. He won't give up easily." "Your cousin," Kale processed this. "So the inconvenient political rivals are family. Lovely." He leaned against the cool stone wall, trying to gather his thoughts. "And this birthright you mentioned, he wants it." Lyra nodded, her tendrils coiling slightly tighter. "Varkes believes the Lumina path forward is through consolidation, control, subservience to the galactic concordat." Her voice held a note of bitterness. "He sees our traditions, our connection to the resonance, as weakness. He wants to sever us from our past, from Luminara's heart." She looked directly at him, her eyes searching his. "He believes a liaison with an offworlder, especially one not sanctioned by the Concordat, is the ultimate contamination. Proof of my unsuitability." Kale frowned. "Liaison, consort, are we back to that?" He rubbed the back of his neck, feeling a prickle of unease. "Look, Lyra, I helped you out of a jam. Maybe accidentally hot-wired a crane, but consort implies a lot more than just sharing a garbage chute." Lyra stepped closer, closing the small distance between them. The fluorolozone scent intensified, clouding his thoughts. "Among my people, Kale, bonds are formed through resonance, shared crisis, a synchronization of intent." Her hand lifted, hovering just inches from his chest. Her glow pulsed gently. "When you access the crane controls, guided by my focus, when we move through the folded space jump, sustained by my energy," she hesitated, the tendrils near her temples shimmering. "There was an alignment, a connection forged in necessity." "A connection?" Kale repeated warily. "What kind of connection?" He felt a strange hum starting deep within him, a faint echo of the resonance she projected. It wasn't unpleasant, just weird, deeply weird. "The kind that binds," Lyra said softly, her gaze locked on his. "The kind that designates a protector, a partner." Her fingers finally brushed against the fabric of his shirt, right over his heart. The hum inside him spiked, a warm wave spreading through his chest. Her own glow brightened, shifting towards warmer golds and pinks. "The kind my cousin cannot easily undo." She tilted her head, a flicker of the old mischief in her eyes, mixed with something deeper, more vulnerable. "You asked what they want. They want to prevent this." Kale stared at her, then down at her hand resting over his heart, then back into her impossibly dark eyes. The implication slammed into him like a physical blow. The escape, the chase, her words. "Wait. Are you saying, when you called me your consort back at the market?" "An impulse," she admitted readily. "A desperate gambit to make them hesitate." "And the resonance, the alignment, the connection forged in necessity." He felt a surge of panic mixed with something he couldn't name, something disturbingly like fascination. Lyra's expression softened. The playful dominance was gone, replaced by a quiet intensity. Less impulse, more consequence. Her fingers pressed slightly firmer against his chest. The hum resonated between them, a tangible force. "Our energies intertwined, Kale. In the heat of survival, a foundation was laid. According to the oldest Lumina traditions, the ones Varkis despises, she took a breath, her glow pulsing in time with the hum. We are now resonant bonded, mated. Kale's jaw dropped. Mated, like married, like stuck together forever, mated. The room suddenly felt very small, the glowing glyphs pressing in on him. He thought of his quiet life, the neat rows of space cabbages he'd planned to cultivate on some forgotten moon, the blissful solitude. All of it evaporated in the face of this glowing, humming, impossibly beautiful alien who was now claiming they were bonded. Forever is a human concept, Lyra corrected gently, though the corner of her mouth twitched. Resonance can fade if not nurtured, but yes, the bond is real, palpable. She moved her hand slightly, and the answering hum inside him shifted, intensified. You feel it too, don't you, Kale human farmer? He did. He absolutely did, and it terrified him as much as it intrigued him. The warmth spreading from her touch wasn't just physical. It felt like it was reaching something deep inside him, something long dormant. This is insane, he breathed, running a hand through his hair. I was selling vegetables. I grow things. I don't get resonance bonded to alien princesses fleeing their murderous cousins. You are surprisingly adaptable, Lyra countered, her smile widening slightly. And technically I am not yet the princess, merely a princess. Varkis holds the citadel. She stepped back, giving him a little space, though the invisible thread of resonance still seemed to connect them. This bond, it changes things, drastically, for both of us. Her glow became more serious, the blues deepening. My cousin cannot simply eliminate me now. To harm me is to harm my bonded consort. An attack on you is an attack on me. Our life forces are linked. Kale stared at her, processing the implications. Linked life forces, mutual protection built into the accidental marriage. It was the most terrifying, most bizarrely convenient thing that had ever happened to him. So, this accidental mating, it's actually a shield, a political loophole. A very powerful one, Lyra confirmed. The ancient laws hold sway even over Varkis. He would face rebellion if he defied a true resonance bond. She paused, her gaze softening again. It also means we must rely on each other, truly. Your survival is now intrinsically tied to mine. She gestured around the glowing chamber. This sanctuary is temporary. We need to reach Luminara. We need to rally those loyal to the old ways, and we need to do it together. Kale looked around the chamber, then back at Lyra. Her iridescence seemed to pulse with sincerity, with a fierce determination that was strangely captivating. He felt the hum inside him again, a quiet affirmation. He was a farmer, damn it, or he had been. He knew about tending things, about patience, about weathering storms. This was just a bigger storm, with higher stakes, and a partner who glowed. He took a deep breath, the scent of alien blossoms filling his lungs. Okay, he said slowly, the word feeling heavy, momentous. Okay, princess, let's go nurture this resonance bond. Where's the exit to this magical mystery tour? Lyra's face lit up, her glow brightening the entire chamber. She stepped forward, her earlier playful energy returning, and looped her arm through his. The contact sent another jolt through him, but this time it felt less like static shock and more like a connection. This way, my unlikely consort, she said, her voice filled with renewed confidence. Luminara awaits, and I believe you'll find our methods of nurturing quite stimulating. She tugged him towards a section of the wall where the glyphs swirled with particular intensity, promising passage to a world and a future he couldn't begin to imagine. The transition wasn't like the jarring sideways step of the folded space jump. This felt more like sinking into warm water, a gentle dissolution and reformation. One moment they were in the obsidian chamber, the next Kale was blinking against actual sunlight filtering through a canopy of luminous, sky-blue foliage. The air was thick with humidity, birdsong, or the alien equivalent, and the pervasive scent of damp earth and exotic blooms, far richer and more complex than in the transfer point. They stood on a narrow platform woven from living vines, overlooking a vast jungle valley. Crystal-clear water cascaded down moss-covered cliffs in the distance, catching the light and scattering rainbows. Structures, impossibly elegant and seemingly grown rather than built, spiraled upwards from the valley floor, connected by delicate, shimmering bridges. It was breathtaking. "Welcome to Luminara," Lyra murmured beside him, her voice filled with reverence. Her glow seemed to harmonize with the ambient light of the jungle, deepening into rich forest greens and earthy ochres. "My home." Kale could only stare. He'd seen biodomes, terraformed asteroids, even lush orbital habitats, but nothing compared to this. It felt alive, ancient, deeply interconnected. "It's wow." Eloquence failed him. He felt the resonance bond hum softly between them, a quiet thrum of belonging that resonated oddly with the vibrant life surrounding them. Lyra smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression that transformed her face. "It is dying, Kale." The words shattered the idyllic moment. Varkey's his off-world dealings, his exploitation of our planet's deep resonance fields for concordat technologies, it's poisoning the heartwood, disrupting the balance. Her gaze swept the valley, pain flickering in her eyes. "The light fades. The connections weaken. That's why I had to retrieve the Sunstone from the archives on Xylo's station. It's the key to restoring the balance, but Varkey's knew. He ambushed me." "The Sunstone," Kale repeated. "That's the essential thing you mentioned." He remembered her fierce determination back in the skimmer. "So, where is it?" Lyra reached up, her fingers tracing a delicate pattern just below her collarbone. The skin there pulsed with a warm, golden light, and Kale realized a section of her intricate markings wasn't just skin deep. It was the artifact, somehow integrated, hidden in plain sight. "Fused, temporarily. Safest place I could think of." She met his eyes. "Varkey's wants it not just to control Luminara, but to weaponize its energy." Kale felt a surge of protective anger, fueled by the bond humming within him. The idea of this vibrant world being bled dry, of Lyra being hunted for the key to its survival, it settled deep in his gut. "Okay, so plan. We have the stone, we have the accidental marriage shield. How do we stop him? He might be a farmer, but he knew you couldn't let pests destroy the harvest." "We need allies," Lyra said, turning from the vista. "The elders of the deep woods. They honor the old ways, the resonance Varkey scorns. They live apart from the citadel he controls." She started walking along the vine platform towards a descending pathway. "But reaching them won't be easy. Varkey's sentinels patrol the pathways, and the jungle itself can be selective about its visitors." She glanced back at him, a challenge in her eyes. "Can your adaptability handle bioluminescent predators and sentient fungi, Kale human consort?" "Sentient fungi," Kale sighed, jogging to catch up. "Just when I thought murderous cousin was the worst of it." He fell into step beside her, their arms occasionally brushing. Each contact sent a little spark along the resonance bond, a reminder of their linked fate. "Lead the way, princess. Just try to warn me before anything tries to photosynthesize my boots, okay?" Their journey through the luminous jungle was a sensory overload. Plants pulsed with soft light. Strange insect-like creatures with multifaceted eyes clicked and whirred in the branches overhead, and the very air seemed to thrum with latent energy. Lyra moved with a grace and certainty that spoke of deep familiarity, her glow shifting subtly to blend with the surroundings or flare briefly, as a warning when potentially dangerous flora rustled nearby. Kale, clumsy by comparison, stumbled over glowing roots and slapped away iridescent insects, relying heavily on her guidance. The bond between them was a constant presence, a low hum beneath his awareness that spiked whenever they touched, or when danger seemed close. It was unnerving how quickly it was becoming normal. They paused for rest near a waterfall cascading into a pool of shimmering turquoise water. Lyra knelt, cupping her hands to drink. The water seemed to glow brighter as she touched it. Kale watched her, the sunlight filtering through the blue leaves dappling her iridescent skin. She looked less like a hunted princess and more like a forest spirit, completely at home. He felt a pang of something complex, admiration, attraction, and the lingering absurdity of his situation. "You seem comfortable here," he commented, settling onto a moss-covered rock. Lyra looked up, droplets of glowing water clinging to her lips. "It is my source, my connection, The resonance flows freely here, untainted. She tilted her head. You feel it too, don't you? Stronger than before. Cale had to admit he did. The gentle hum inside him felt clearer, less like an echo and more like a harmonic frequency. It wasn't just the bond, the whole jungle seemed to vibrate with it. Yeah, it's loud. She smiled. It recognizes the bond, it welcomes you. She stood and walked towards him, stopping just before him. The proximity, combined with the jungle's energy, made the resonance thrum almost uncomfortably loudly in his chest. The bond requires reinforcement, Cale, nurturing, as you said. Her eyes held a directness that made his breath catch. The air thickened with their shared scent, ozone, flowers, damp earth, and something uniquely them. Reinforcement, he asked, his voice slightly hoarse. Synchronization, she corrected softly. She reached out, her fingers tracing the line of his collarbone, mirroring the location where the sunstone rested beneath her own skin. The touch ignited the bond, sending a wave of heat through him. Her glow intensified, shifting to warm golds and fiery oranges. Alignment of energy, deeper connection. Her other hand came up to cup his cheek, her thumb brushing his lower lip. Her eyes darkened, the obsidian depth seeming to pull him in. It strengthens us. Both of us, and a flicker of playful dominance returned. It can be quite pleasurable. The invitation hung in the air, heavy and potent, underscored by the thrumming resonance of the jungle and the undeniable pull of the bond connecting them. Cale's farmer instincts were screaming caution, but the man staring into Lyra's luminous eyes was finding it very hard to listen. Cale's breath hitched. Her touch was electric, sending cascades of warmth along his nerves, amplifying the hum of the bond until it vibrated through his entire being. The logical part of his brain, the part that still remembered hydroponics and quarterly reports, was screaming about cultural misunderstandings and impulsive decisions. But it was being rapidly drowned out by the sheer sensory input. The heat from her skin, the intoxicating scent unique to her, the mesmerizing swirl of colors across her iridescent surface, the undeniable pull of the resonance seeking its counterpart. Pleasurable, he echoed, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra's smile widened, a slow, predatory curve that was utterly captivating. The resonance facilitates transfer, sensation, emotion. Her thumb brushed his lip again, lingering this time. A sharing. Her eyes held his, pupils dilating slightly. Are you afraid, Cale human farmer? There was no mockery in the question, only genuine curiosity mixed with the challenge he'd seen before. Was he afraid? Hell yes. Afraid of the unknown, afraid of losing himself in this bizarre connection, afraid of what this powerful, unpredictable alien woman represented. But beneath the fear there was something else stirring, a deep, echoing loneliness he hadn't let himself acknowledge for years, and a burgeoning desire that eclipsed caution. He met her gaze, trying to inject some of his usual sarcasm, but it fell flat. Maybe just apprehensive about the sentient fungi stage of the relationship. Her laughter chimed through the clearing, light and genuine. There will be no fungi involved in this reinforcement. She leaned closer, her forehead gently resting against his. The contact point sizzled, not painfully but intensely, like touching a battery terminal. The resonance humming spiked, becoming a tangible wave washing over him, through him. He felt open, exposed, and yet strangely safe. He could feel her emotions through the bond, determination, a flicker of anxiety beneath the confidence, and a deep, aching longing for connection, for the safety of her home. It mirrored his own hidden feelings with unnerving accuracy. Synchronization, she murmured, her breath warm against his skin. Her tendrils uncoiled slightly, brushing against his temples, sending faint, tingling sparks across his scalp. Her hands slid from his face, one tracing the line of his shoulder, the other settling lightly on his chest, directly over the humming epicenter of the bond within him. Her touch wasn't demanding but inviting, exploring, learning. He instinctively mirrored the gesture, his own hands finding the curve of her waist, pulling her fractionally closer. Her skin felt impossibly smooth, warm and alive beneath his palms, the intricate patterns shifting subtly at his touch. The air crackled with energy. The sounds of the jungle seemed to fade, replaced by the overwhelming thrum of the resonance connecting them, amplifying with every shared breath, every point of contact. Her lips were inches from his, slightly parted. He could see the pulse beating in the hollow of her throat, see the way the light danced in her obsidian eyes. The playful dominance games, the sarcastic banter, the frantic escape, all of it melted away, leaving only this raw, charged intimacy. It wasn't just physical attraction. It was the bond itself, demanding acknowledgement, demanding closeness, demanding completion. He closed the remaining distance, his mouth finding hers. The kiss was explosive. A shockwave of pure sensation ripped through him, fueled by the resonance bond. It wasn't just lips meeting. It was an exchange of energy, a merging of sensory input. He tasted ozone and honey, felt the vibrant thrum of her life force pouring into him, and sensed his own tangled emotions, fear, desire, reluctant hope, flowing back into her. Her response was instantaneous, fierce. She deepened the kiss, her arms wrapping around his neck, pulling him down towards the mossy ground. Her body molded against his, supple and strong. The colors on her skin swirled rapidly, golds, pinks, deep violets, reflecting the intensity of the moment. He tangled his fingers in the silky coolness of her hair, tilting her head back, seeking more. This wasn't gentle. It was urgent, desperate, a culmination of the chaos and tension that had defined their meeting. It was the partial payoff. The universe seemed determined to deliver, intense and overwhelming, leaving Cale breathless and reeling, the bond singing wildly within him, demanding more than just a kiss. They broke apart, gasping, foreheads still pressed together. The resonance hummed between them, a powerful, vibrating chord. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, her pupils blown wide, the colors on her skin slowly settling back into softer hues, though still brighter, more vibrant than before. A shaky laugh escaped her. "Well," she breathed, her voice husky. "That certainly reinforced things." Cale couldn't speak. His mind was still catching up with the sensory onslaught. He felt fundamentally altered, the bond no longer just a weird hum but a living connection, thrumming with shared energy, shared sensation. He could feel the echo of her pleasure, the sharp spike of her desire mirroring his own. He ran a thumb over her cheekbone, marveling at the texture, the warmth. "Yeah," he managed, his own voice rough. "Synchronized." She smiled, a soft, almost shy expression that sat oddly on her usually confident features. The bond, it quickens when nurtured, grows stronger, more insistent. She shifted, her body still pressed close against his on the soft moss. It desires completion, full alignment. Her gaze flickered down his body and back up, direct and appraising, but softened by the vulnerability he now sensed through their connection. Cale understood the implication. The kiss, intense as it was, felt like a prelude. The bond craved a deeper merging, a physical consummation that went beyond simple human lust. It felt necessary, inevitable. He traced the glowing pattern beneath her collarbone, the hidden sunstone pulsing faintly under his touch. Protectiveness surged through him again, fierce and primal. Protecting her, protecting Luminara, protecting this fragile, incandescent connection they now shared. It suddenly felt like the most important thing in the universe. More important than cabbages, solitude, or the life he thought he wanted. "Okay," he said softly, meeting her intense gaze. "Okay, Lyra." He cupped her face, feeling the slight tremor in her tendrils. "Let's align." The word felt inadequate, clinical, for the wave of emotion cresting between them. It wasn't just about sex, it was about sealing the bond, about accepting this shared destiny, about finding anchor in the chaos. He lowered his head again, but this time the kiss was slower, deeper, searching. A conscious choice, not just a reaction. Her response was equally deliberate, a yielding and claiming all at once. She guided his hands, showing him the places her skin was most sensitive, where the resonance pooled. Her touch, in turn, seemed instinctively drawn to the core of the bond within him, stoking the internal hum into a burning fire. The sounds of the jungle became a distant symphony, the waterfall a backdrop to the rising tide of their shared desire. The air grew heavy, charged, the light filtering through the leaves seeming to focus entirely on them as they shed layers of clothing and caution. preparing for a union far deeper than simple flesh. The mossy ground was cool beneath Kale's back, a grounding contrast to the heat radiating from Lyra's body pressed against his. Her skin was a living canvas, colors swirling and intensifying with every touch, every shared breath. Golds deepened to molten bronze, blues flared into electric sapphire, violets pulsed with hypnotic rhythm. Her tendrils brushed against his temples, sending shivers of pure energy down his spine, directly into the core of the bond. It felt less like physical contact, and more like plugging into a power source. He gasped as her fingers traced patterns across his chest, mirroring the glyphs that adorned her own world, igniting trails of fire along his nerves. The resonance between them was a tangible force now, a vibrating field enveloping them, blurring the lines between his senses and hers. He could almost feel the colors shifting on her skin, taste the ozone tang of her energy on his tongue. Kale, his name was a sigh on her lips, imbued with the strange resonance that now felt intimately familiar, a part of him. Her eyes, dark and deep, held his gaze, reflecting the luminous jungle canopy above and the raw emotion surging between them. There was no teasing now, no games of dominance, only vulnerability and a fierce shared need. He reached up, tracing the curve of her hip, the smooth, warm skin impossibly sensitive under his touch. She arched slightly, a low hum escaping her throat, a sound that vibrated through the bond and resonated deep within his bones. He explored the alien landscape of her body, the subtle ridges along her spine, the delicate flare of her hip bones, the surprising strength in her limbs. Everything about her was both utterly strange and perfectly right. He shifted, rolling her gently onto her back, needing to see her, to witness the effect he was having. Her glow intensified under his gaze, her breath catching as his fingers brushed the apex of her thighs. The skin there shimmered, pulsing with an inner light. He lowered his head, tasting the delicate juncture, rewarded by a sharp intake of breath and a surge of pure pleasure through the bond that nearly overloaded his senses. Her hands clenched in the moss, her back arching as the resonance field around them spiked, making the very air tremble. He explored her intimately, learning the rhythms of her body, the places that made her glow flare brightest, the sounds that were wrenched from her throat, chimes and clicks and low, resonant moans that bypassed language entirely. It was intoxicating, overwhelming. He felt drunk on sensation, on her unique alien essence, on the sheer power of their connection. When she pulled him up, her eyes blazing, her entire body thrumming like a struck chord, he needed no further invitation. He positioned himself between her thighs, the heat and energy emanating from her almost scorching. He met her gaze, seeing his own reflection in those dark pools, seeing the shared desire, the shared future, however uncertain, reflected there. "Lyra," he whispered, the name feeling sacred on his tongue. She reached up, her iridescent hand cupping his cheek, her thumb tracing his jawline. "Kale," she echoed, the resonance in her voice weaving around him like silk. "Align with me, now." He entered her slowly, deliberately, the sensation unlike anything he had ever experienced. It wasn't just physical friction. It was a profound sense of merging, of two energy fields finally locking into place. The resonance bond flared nova bright, a blinding wave of shared sensation, pleasure, connection, belonging washing over him. He felt her gasp echo in his own chest, felt the colors pulse beneath his hands, felt the deep thrumming of Luminara itself welcoming their union. He moved within her, finding a rhythm that matched the pulsing resonance, a dance of shared energy and escalating pleasure. Her body clenched around him, her glow washing over them both in waves of incandescent light. The tendrils at her temples sparked, casting fleeting constellations against the jungle canopy. He felt the sunstone beneath her skin pulse against his chest, a steady, rhythmic beat like a second heart. Time seemed to dissolve. There was only the heat, the light, the sound, the overwhelming sensation of being utterly connected, two disparate beings finding perfect harmony in the heart of an alien jungle. Her climax hit first, a seismic wave through the bond, wrenching a cry from her that was pure, resonant energy. Her light flared, momentarily blinding him, and he felt her pleasure as if it were his own. The feedback loop tipped him over the edge, his own release tearing through him, not just a physical culmination, but an outpouring of emotion, of acceptance, of surrender to this impossible connection. He collapsed against her, spent, heart hammering, the resonance slowly settling into a warm, steady thrum, binding them together, irrevocably aligned. They lay tangled together for a long time, the dappled sunlight shifting through the leaves overhead. The intensity of their joining slowly subsided, leaving behind a profound sense of peace, a quiet intimacy that felt more real than anything Cale had ever known. The resonance bond hummed softly between them, a warm, constant presence, no longer just a weird anomaly but the fundamental truth of their connection. Lyra's glow had softened to gentle pastels, her breathing even against his chest. Her hand rested over his heart, fingers occasionally flexing as if reassuring herself he was still there. Cale stroked her hair, the silky strands cool against his skin. He felt changed, grounded yet expanded. The sarcastic, guarded shell he'd lived inside for so long felt thin, almost transparent. "So," he murmured eventually, breaking the comfortable silence, "does this mean I have to learn intricate lumina courting rituals now, or did we just skip to the end?" Lyra tilted her head back to look at him, a soft smile playing on her lips. The colors on her skin swirled lazily like contentment made visible. "We established the foundation. The nurturing is ongoing." Her eyes held a warmth that reached deep inside him. "There are protocols, responsibilities, especially now." "Right, the consort business." Cale sighed, but there was no real heat in it. "Still trying to wrap my head around that. One minute I'm worried about cabbage aphids, the next I'm accidentally married to royalty and apparently key to saving a planet." "You possess a resonance signature," Lyra explained softly, tracing the faint hum she could likely sense within him. "Faint, dormant, but undeniably present. Humans rarely do. Perhaps your ancestors brushed against the fringes of folded space, or maybe it's the farmer in you attuned to growth, to life cycles." She shrugged, a ripple of amethyst light. Whatever the reason, the bond recognized it, amplified it, anchored to it. She pushed herself up slightly, her expression becoming more serious. "This bond, Cale, it doesn't just protect us. It grants you standing, authority, according to the ancient ways Varkes ignores." Cale frowned. "Authority? What kind of authority?" "The consort to the Sunstone Bearer holds inherent rights," Lyra stated. "Voice in council, command precedence in matters of planetary defense, access to certain deeper resonances." Her gaze was intense. "Varkes cannot simply dismiss you as an inconvenient offworlder anymore. You are part of Luminara now, recognized by the planet itself through our bond." Cale stared at her, the weight of her words settling in. He wasn't just a tag-along anymore. He wasn't just Lyra's accidental husband. He was something else. Something with power he didn't understand and responsibility he hadn't asked for. The farmer in him balked at the complexity, the politics. But the man who had just shared an earth-shattering, planet-shattering connection with the woman beside him felt a reluctant stirring of duty, maybe even excitement. "So I'm not just durable," he quipped, trying to lighten the mood, mostly for his own benefit. "I'm politically significant." Lyra grinned, the playful spark returning to her eyes. "Precisely. My very own politically significant, surprisingly adaptable human farmer consort." She leaned in and kissed him lightly, a soft promise rather than the firestorm from before. "Come, the elders await. It's time to introduce them to the new dynamic in Lumina politics." She stood, offering him a hand, her body radiant in the filtered sunlight. Cale took it, letting her pull him to his feet. The path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, filled with murderous cousins and sentient fungi, but looking at Lyra, feeling the steady thrum of the bond connecting them, he didn't feel quite so adrift anymore. He had an anchor, and apparently a voice in council. Things were definitely looking up from space cabbages. Their arrival at the hidden enclave of the elders of the deep woods was met with cautious curiosity rather than hostility. Lyra's presence was clearly expected, but Cale's was an anomaly. The elders, ancient lumina whose skin bore the textures of bark and moss, their glows muted and steady like old embers, observed him with unnervingly perceptive eyes. They gathered in a natural amphitheater formed by the roots of colossal, luminous trees, the air thick with wisdom and the deep, slow resonance of the planet itself. Lyra presented their case, her voice clear and strong, explaining Varkis's betrayal, the theft and recovery of the Sunstone, and the urgent need to counter his destructive influence. Then she introduced Kale. "This is Kale of the human species," Lyra announced, her hand resting lightly on his arm, the contact sending a steady pulse through the bond. "He aided my escape, protected the Sunstone, and through alignment in crisis, a resonance bond was forged between us. He stands beside me now, not merely as ally, but as consort, recognized by the resonance of Luminara itself." A ripple of surprise went through the assembled elders. Their combined gaze intensified on Kale, probing, assessing. He felt the deep planetary resonance wash over him, testing the connection Lyra spoke of. He instinctively focused on the hum within him, letting it answer, letting the truth of the bond radiate outwards. He felt Lyra squeeze his arm encouragingly. One elder whose skin resembled ancient, gnarled redwood stepped forward. Their glow was a soft, deep amber, a bond with an off-worlder unprecedented, yet the resonance does not lie. Their voice was like the rustling of ancient leaves. "The planet acknowledges him, therefore we must." They turned their gaze back to Lyra. "But Varkis holds the citadel, princess. His forces are strong, bolstered by concordat technology. How can this union hope to challenge him?" "Because Varkis relies on stolen power," Lyra countered fiercely, her own glow brightening. "We have the Sunstone, we have the legitimacy of the ancient ways, and we have allies he underestimates." She looked directly at Kale. "My consort may be unfamiliar with our world, but he possesses skills Varkis wouldn't anticipate, a different perspective, and the bond grants him access to certain pathways." Kale shifted uncomfortably. "Pathways," he whispered to her side. "Resonance conduits," she murmured back. "Ways to amplify and direct energy, requires focus, synchronization." She gave him a look that clearly referenced their earlier synchronization. Before Kale could fully panic about weaponizing their connection, alarms began to chime through the enclave, soft, melodic, but undeniably urgent. A younger Lumina rushed forward, their skin flashing warning patterns of red and silver. "Sentinels, Varkis's forces. They bypassed the outer wards. They're approaching the amphitheater." Panic flickered through the crowd. The Redwood elder turned to Lyra, their gaze sharp. "It seems Varkis' forces are hand, princess." Lyra's jaw tightened. Her hand instinctively went to the sunstone beneath her skin. "He tracked us. He must have planted a tracer during the escape." She looked at Kale, then at the elders. "We cannot fight his forces head-on here, not without preparation." "He seeks the sunstone," the elder stated grimly. "And now he likely seeks to eliminate the unexpected complication, your consort." Kale felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He was a target, a complication to be removed. The reality of his situation slammed home harder than ever. But looking at Lyra's determined face, feeling the steady pulse of the bond, a different instinct took over. Not fear, but defiance. The farmer facing down a blight. "Okay," Kale said, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. "Lyra mentioned pathways, resonance conduits. Can we use them? Not just to fight, but defensively, like redirecting energy, creating interference." He was thinking of his old agri-tech days, rerouting power grids, setting up sonic fences to deter pests. Lyra looked at him, surprised, then a slow smile spread across her face. "Yes, theoretically, it would require immense concentration, perfect alignment." The Redwood elder stroked their bark-like chin. "A resonance shield, generated by a bonded pair, one attuned to the sunstone, it could disrupt their targeting systems, confuse their sensors, buy us time to evacuate the non-combatants." "How do we do it?" Kale asked, turning fully to Lyra, ignoring the approaching sounds of conflict. Her eyes met his, serious and intense. "We synchronize, deeply. We channel the ambient resonance, focusing it through the bond, projecting it outwards. She took his hands, her grip firm. Her glow brightened, mirroring his own burgeoning resolve. It will require trust, Kale. Absolute focus on each other, on the connection. Got it, Kale said, squeezing her hands back. Like nurturing, but with more potential explosions. He took a deep breath, centering himself, focusing on the steady hum connecting him to Lyra, to the ancient forest, to the very planet beneath his feet. The sounds of battle were getting closer, but here, in the eye of the storm, holding Lyra's hands, he felt strangely calm. Ready. He was a farmer, accidentally married to an alien princess, about to try and weaponize their love life to save her people. Just another Tuesday. The air crackled as Lyra and Kale focused, their hands clasped tightly. Kale closed his eyes, shutting out the encroaching sounds of Varkes' sentinels, the rhythmic clank of metallic feet, the hum of energy weapons charging. He focused entirely on the bond, the steady thrumming resonance connecting him to Lyra. It felt like a physical cord now, pulsing with warmth and shared energy. He pictured it, visualized it strengthening, glowing brighter. He felt Lyra doing the same, her concentration a palpable force flowing into him. The ambient resonance of the ancient forest flowed towards them, drawn by their focused intent, swirling around their joined hands like a tangible current. It felt like standing in the heart of a gentle whirlwind. Now, Lyra murmured, her voice tight with effort, push outwards together. Kale imagined the energy, guided by their bond, expanding from them in a wave. Not an attack, but a shield, a wave of pure harmonic resonance designed to disrupt, to confuse. He felt the energy surge through him, channeled from the forest floor, amplified by the sunstone pulsing beneath Lyra's skin, and focused through the unique frequency of their connection. It was an incredible strain, demanding every ounce of his concentration. He felt Lyra trembling beside him, pouring her own energy into the effort. Their glows merged, creating a single, brilliant sphere of incandescent light that enveloped them and expanded rapidly outwards. Outside the growing dome of light, Kale could hear shouts of confusion from the sentinels, the whine of weapons firing erratically, hitting trees or fizzling out harmlessly. The shield was working. "It holds," the redwood elder observed, their voice filled with quiet awe. "But the strain, it is immense." Kale could feel it. His muscles screamed, sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool forest air. Maintaining the shield felt like holding back a floodgate with sheer willpower. He risked opening his eyes fractionally. Lyra's face was pale beneath her shifting glow, her lips pressed into a thin line, but her eyes met his, filled with fierce determination. He saw his own strain reflected there, but also an unwavering trust that strengthened his resolve. They were in this together, linked. "We need to move," Lyra gasped, her voice strained. "Maintain the shield while the elders guide the others to the deeper sanctuaries." "Can you?" Kale asked, feeling the energy drain from him. "We must," she replied simply. Taking slow, deliberate steps, never breaking eye contact, never loosening their grip, they began to move backwards, pulling the protective sphere of resonance with them. It was like walking through thick syrup, every step an agony of effort. The sentinels, momentarily thwarted, began to regroup, firing concentrated blasts against the shimmering barrier. Cracks of dissonant energy spiderwebbed across the surface, but the shield held, repaired instantly by the constant flow of resonance channeled through their bond. Kale focused on Lyra, on the feeling of her hand in his, the shared pulse of the bond, drawing strength from her, offering his own in return. It was the most intense, most intimate connection they'd shared, deeper even than their physical joining by the waterfall. This was alignment under fire, synchronization for survival. They reached the entrance to the deeper tunnels, hidden behind a curtain of living vines that rippled at their approach. The elders ushered the last of the Lumina families inside, their ancient eyes expressing gratitude and urgency. "Go now," the redwood elder urged Lyra and Kale. "Follow the deep paths. They will lead you towards the citadel's underbelly. Varkes must be confronted directly. The sunstone must reach the heartwood chamber." Lyra nodded, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Cale felt lightheaded, his vision swimming. The shield flickered violently as a particularly powerful blast struck it. "We can't hold it much longer," he gritted out. "Just a little further," Lyra urged, pulling him towards the tunnel entrance. As they stepped through the vine curtain, she gave one final, monumental push of energy. The shield outside flared brilliantly, then collapsed inwards, imploding with a shockwave of pure resonance that sent the foremost sentinels staggering backwards, their systems momentarily overloaded. Lyra stumbled, leaning heavily against Cale, her glow dimming drastically. He wrapped an arm around her waist, supporting her, feeling utterly drained himself but buoyed by a surge of adrenaline and relief. They had done it. They had protected the enclave. Inside the tunnels, lit by softly glowing moss and the ever-present planetary resonance, they paused to catch their breath. Lyra slumped against the cool stone wall, her eyes closed. Cale gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek. Her skin was cool now, the vibrant colors faded. "You okay?" he asked softly. She opened her eyes, managing a weak smile, depleted but aligned. She reached up, touching his face. "You too. I felt your strength, Cale, like an anchor." "Just trying to keep up, princess," he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. He leaned his forehead against hers, feeling the faint, steady hum of the bond connecting them, a quiet promise in the darkness. "So, Citadel underbelly sounds delightful." Lyra chuckled weakly. "It's where the oldest resonance conduits converge, close to the heartwood chamber Varkes is corrupting." Her expression hardened. "We stop him there. We restore the sunstone, or Luminara falls." She pushed herself upright, drawing strength from some hidden reserve. "Together." Cale looked into her determined eyes, saw the future of a world reflected there, felt the weight of their shared destiny settle onto his shoulders. It wasn't the future he'd planned, tending his solitary space garden. It was chaotic, dangerous, impossibly complicated, but it was theirs. He took her hand again, the simple contact sending a reassuring warmth through the bond. "Together," he confirmed. He squeezed her hand. "Lead the way." He might have been a farmer, but he was learning. And he'd be damned if he let anyone poison Lyra's world, or harm the alien princess who had somehow become his. They turned and headed deeper into the glowing tunnels, towards the heart of the conflict, towards the final confrontation, their linked fate lighting the path ahead. The journey through the deep tunnels was long and silent, broken only by the soft padding of their footsteps and the low, omnipresent hum of Luminara's resonance. Cale felt his strength slowly returning, nourished by the ambient energy and the steady connection to Lyra. Her glow gradually regained its vibrancy, shifting through calming blues and greens as she recovered. They walked side by side, the earlier intensity replaced by a quiet companionship, a sense of shared purpose solidifying between them. Cale found himself noticing the subtle shifts in her luminescence that signaled her thoughts or reactions to the tunnel's energies, learning her silent language. She, in turn, seemed attuned to his human anxieties, offering a reassuring touch or a soft word when the darkness felt too oppressive or the path ahead seemed uncertain. They emerged into a vast cavern pulsing with raw energy. Great, crystalline veins snaked across the walls and floor, glowing with an internal light that shifted from deep violet to blinding white. This was the Citadel's underbelly, the nexus of the resonance conduits Lyra had spoken of. In the center of the cavern, a twisted, corrupted structure pulsed with a sickly, discordant energy. The heartwood chamber, visibly strained, darkened veins spreading across its surface like a disease. And standing before it, bathed in its corrupted light, was Varkes. He looked remarkably similar to Lyra, but where she was shifting light and vibrant energy, he was sharp angles and controlled, icy brilliance. His glow was a constant, cold silver, unwavering and imperious. He turned as they entered, his eyes, identical in shape to Lyra, but lacking any warmth, fixed on them. "Cousin," Varkes greeted, his voice smooth, resonant, but utterly devoid of emotion. "And the off-world contamination she clings to, how predictable, following the old paths like sentimental fools." He gestured dismissively towards the corrupted heartwood. This is the future, Lyra. Controlled power, integration with the concordat, order, not chasing fanciful notions of planetary harmony. You're killing Luminara Varkis, Lyra cried out, stepping forward, her own glow flaring defensively. The sunstone beneath her skin pulsed brightly. This order is poison. Varkis laughed, a cold, sharp sound. A necessary sacrifice for progress. The concordat offers stability, strength. Our resonance, properly harnessed, will give us leverage, power beyond your imagining. We will be respected, not pitied as mystical primitives. His eyes narrowed, focusing on Kale. And you, the unexpected variable, the farmer. Did you truly think this pathetic bond could stop me? It merely confirms Lyra's weakness, her sentimentality. He raised a hand, and silver energy crackled around his fingers. I will sever this contamination. Then I will take the sunstone and finalize Luminara's ascension. Kale felt the bond hum warningly. He stepped up beside Lyra, placing a hand protectively on her arm. She's not weak, Kale said, his voice steady despite the fear coiling in his gut. And this bond isn't pathetic. It's stronger than whatever twisted power you're using. He might not understand resonance conduits, but he understood growth, balance. Varkis radiated imbalance, a parasitic drain on the life around him. Touching, Varkis sneered. He lunged, not physically, but with a blast of pure, discordant silver energy aimed directly at Kale. Instinctively, Lyra threw herself in front of Kale, raising her hands. The sunstone flared, meeting Varkis's attack with a wave of golden light. The energies clashed violently, throwing sparks, the sound deafening. Lyra staggered back, pain flashing across her face. No, Kale yelled. He pulled Lyra behind him, facing Varkis directly. He didn't have a sunstone, didn't have innate control over resonance, but he had the bond. He had Lyra. He focused, reaching for that connection, for the shared energy, for the memory of the shield they'd created. He pictured Lyra's golden light, the forest's deep harmony, and tried to channel it, to project it. A faint, wavering shield of pale gold flickered into existence in front of him. It was weak, unstable, but it was there. Varkis stared, genuinely surprised for the first time. Impossible. A human cannot channel resonance directly. He's not just human, Lyra said, her voice regaining strength as she placed her hands on Kale's back, pouring her energy into his shield, reinforcing it through the bond. He is my consort, recognized by Luminara. Their combined shield solidified, glowing brightly, a fusion of Kale's determination and Lyra's power, anchored by the sunstone. Varkis snarled, frustrated. He drew more power from the corrupted heartwood, the dark veins spreading further, the chamber groaning in protest. He unleashed a torrent of silver energy, battering their shield. Kale gritted his teeth, feeling the strain, the immense pressure. He could feel Lyra weakening behind him, the sunstone's power warring against the corruption Varkis wielded. They couldn't win a direct power struggle. They needed a different approach, the farmer's approach. Not brute force, but finding the imbalance, restoring harmony. Lyra, Kale gasped, never taking his eyes off Varkis. The heartwood, he's drawing power from it, but it's fighting him. Can we help it, feed it good energy, push his corruption out? Lyra's eyes widened slightly through the strain. Yes, the sunstone, it can purify, but the connection, Varkis guards it. Then we make an opening, Kale said, an idea forming, born of desperation and his memory of hot wiring recalcitrant machinery. Distract him. I need a direct line to the chamber just for a second. He looked back at her, meeting her gaze. Trust me. Lyra hesitated only a moment, then nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. She pulled back slightly, gathering her remaining strength. Kale braced himself, focusing the shield's energy into a concentrated point. Then, Lyra surged forward, not attacking Varkis, but sending a pure, focused beam of sunstone energy directly into the corrupted heartwood chamber itself. It reacted violently, golden light warring against the sickly silver, the entire cavern shaking. Varkis roared in anger and surprise, momentarily distracted as he fought to regain control of his corrupted power source. In that instant, Kale dropped their main shield and poured every ounce of his will, guided by the bond, into a single, desperate act, not projecting energy, but grounding it. He visualized the discordant silver energy flowing harmlessly away, drawn down into the deep, stabilizing resonance of Luminara's core, like running a grounding wire from a faulty machine. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, the silver energy flooding the chamber faltered. Varkis cried out as his connection to the corrupted power sputtered. The golden light from Lyra's sunstone surged into the heartwood, pushing back the darkness, the black veins receding. The chamber pulsed with renewed, healthy light. Varkis, cut off from his power source and overwhelmed by the pure resonance, collapsed, his own silver glow flickering and dying, leaving him pale and trembling on the cavern floor. Silence descended, broken only by the steady, healthy hum of the restored heartwood chamber and Kale and Lyra's ragged breathing. Kale swayed, utterly spent, caught by Lyra as his knees buckled. "You did it," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with awe and exhaustion, holding him tightly. "Kale, you grounded the corruption. You saved the heartwood." Kale leaned against her, managing a weak grin. "Just rerouting the irrigation system," he mumbled, before succumbing entirely to the overwhelming fatigue. He felt Lyra lower him gently to the floor, her presence a warm, reassuring light as darkness claimed the edge of his vision. His last conscious thought was of the steady, peaceful hum of the bond, no longer strained but resonating with the restored harmony of Luminara. They had won. Together. When Kale woke, it was to softness and light. He lay on something incredibly comfortable, the air filled with the gentle floral scent he now associated intrinsically with Lyra. He blinked, his eyes adjusting to the ambient glow of the room. It wasn't the stark functionality of a ship or the rustic feel of the Elder's enclave. This was elegant. Walls seemed to curve organically, imbued with a soft, pearlescent light. He pushed himself up, finding himself on a low, wide sleeping platform covered in plush, moss-like fabrics. Lyra sat nearby in a gracefully curved chair, seemingly grown from the same luminous material as the walls, watching him, a soft smile on her face. Her glow was calm and radiant, vibrant blues and greens swirling gently. "Welcome back, my consort," she said softly, her resonant voice washing over him soothingly. "Consort," Kale repeated, the word feeling less strange now, more fitting. "Did we?" "We did," Lyra confirmed, standing and moving to sit on the edge of the platform beside him. She took his hand, her touch sending a familiar, comforting warmth through the bond. "Varkis is secured. The Elders are overseeing the purification process, guided by the Sunstone. The Heartwood is healing. Luminara is safe." Relief washed over Kale in a dizzying wave. He sank back against the cushions. "Good, that's good." He looked around the room. "Where are we?" "My personal chambers," Lyra replied. "In the Citadel." She saw the question in his eyes. With Varkis neutralized and the Sunstone restored to its rightful place, symbolically at least until the Heartwood is fully stable, the path was clear. The guard recognized the shift in resonance. They recognized us. Us? Kale looked at her, truly looked at her. The alien princess who had crashed into his life, dragged him through garbage chutes, bonded with him by accident, fought beside him and trusted him to help save her world. The chaotic energy was still there beneath the surface, but it was tempered now by a quiet strength, a deep sense of responsibility. And the way she looked at him, it held an affection and intimacy that resonated deeply through the bond, mirroring his own burgeoning feelings. "So," he said slowly, trying to process the monumental shift in his reality, "you're in charge now, officially." Lyra nodded, a ripple of amethyst dignity perhaps, flowing through her glow. As bearer of the Sunstone, with the support of the Elders and the acknowledgement of the planetary resonance, "Yes, Princess Regent Lyra, at your service." She gave a small, playful bow from her seated position. Kale couldn't help but smile. "And what about the politically significant human farmer consort?" Her smile widened, turning warm, intimate. She leaned closer, her hand cupping his cheek. "He has a vital role to play." Her voice dropped lower, the resonance a soft purr. "Advisor, protector, partner." Her eyes searched his. if he chooses to accept it. No ancient law or resonance bond can force the heart, Kale. This future ruling Luminara, guiding its recovery, navigating the Concordat from a place of strength. I cannot do it alone. I do not want to do it alone. Kale met her gaze, seeing the sincerity, the vulnerability beneath the royal facade. He thought of his old life, the quiet solitude, the predictable rhythms. It seemed like a lifetime ago, faded and distant. This life, chaotic, unpredictable, filled with glowing aliens, murderous cousins, and world-saving intimacy, felt terrifyingly uncertain but also vibrant, meaningful. And at the center of it was Lyra, his anchor, his partner. He reached up, covering her hand with his own, feeling the steady pulse of the bond connecting them. A bond forged in crisis but now deepening into something else entirely. "I'm not much of a politician, Lyra," he said honestly. "I know more about soil nutrient balances than galactic treaties." "Luminara needs balance more than treaties right now," she countered softly. "It needs someone grounded, someone who understands growth, patience, someone who sees the value in nurturing, not exploiting." Her thumb brushed his lip. "It needs you. I need you." The raw honesty in her voice settled deep within him, silencing the last vestiges of doubt. He wasn't the same man who sold cabbages on Xylo Station. Luminara, Lyra, the bond itself, they had changed him. He leaned in, capturing her lips in a kiss that held none of the desperate intensity of their first joining, nor the fiery passion of their synchronization. This was slow, gentle, full of unspoken promises and quiet understanding. It spoke of shared burdens, shared victories, and a shared future, stretching out before them, luminous and full of possibility. When they parted, Lyra rested her forehead against his, her glow soft and contented. "So," she murmured, "Consort Kale, ready to help me rule a planet." Kale smiled, wrapping his arms around her, pulling her close. The bond hummed between them, a perfect, quiet harmony. "Yeah," he said, his voice filled with a certainty that surprised him. "Yeah, I think I am." He might be a farmer, but he was home.